Good evening, everybody. I am putting 2 to 3 videos together. I watched a video I had done last night and realized that I had given you the wrong information about the eggplant. And so I'm redoing the video from the farmer's market about the tomatoes and the purple and white pole beans. And then we will move into the video I did last night, and I will just re-edit it with the correct information. In just a minute. There we go. That's one of the vendors from the farmer's market, and there's the beautiful purple and white pole beans, which if you just put them in dirt, they will break down and start growing. I now have some pole beans in my, those are Roma tomatoes, and the pole beans are now growing in my compost pile. Alright. This is revisiting the compost pile. This is the first day I put worms into the compost pile, which was June 12th of 2020.
Alrighty, look at that. Woo, there's some big old worms. My compost pile. That is one big worm.
And no worm bin video will be complete without Essie singing Baby Shark in the background. Those are the worms the first day I got them. They were having some kind of worm party, and now I got all kinds of baby worms. And I've got cocoons and all kinds of fun stuff. Alright, so this is my worm bin. I originally got the worms on June 12th. So, they have been in there for 60 days, as of today. 2 months. And what have we got here? This is where I fed them. I had some frozen carrots, so they're actually really mushy. And I only feed on one side at a time. So that's the side we're feeding on this week. I keep them covered because I don't know if you can see them, but there's little eggies in here, little worm eggs. So I keep them covered so they stay nice and moist. I'm digging around in here and see if maybe the worms will make an appearance. They don't really care for the light, so they probably already ran down. There's some eggs there. Some eggs there. Some of them have already hatched. As you see these little guys right here, they've already hatched. So they're in there somewhere, hiding. These are actually the pole beans that I got, and they've already started to break down. There you go. I don't know why my light keeps going away here. Anyways, well, I was hoping to show you my worms. I've actually got quite a few in here. Those are all wormy eggs. All in here. It's like they've made a little nursery or something. So that's why I don't like to dig around in here too much. I don't want to upset the worm eggs. Alright, well, it's nice, and another important thing is a lot of times people don't seem to water their worm bins enough, and sometimes they water them too much. Now, worms breathe through their skin, so that's why they're slimy. They need it moist. But I assure you, if you overwater them, as somebody who's done quite a bit of fishing in her time, and your worms get too wet, they'll turn into this gloopy thing, and it's just the most disgusting thing you've ever seen. If you don't believe me, ask my cousin Ryan. He'll tell you about the times that the worms have gotten wet and they've turned to mushy, gushy goo. And it was quite disgusting. And they died, of course, because they drowned. But we used them anyways, because they were fishing worms, so it was okay. There we go. There's some more little eggies. Some of them have already hatched, these little brown ones. But, I don't know where the worms themselves are. But what I wanted to tell you about your, consistency of your bedding here is it needs to be about as wet as crumbly, brownie mix. Or some people say, like, a wrung out sponge. So you want to make sure that you do not overwater your worms or they will turn to sog and gush. But you don't want to not water your worms well enough because then they'll dry out and they'll die. But I assure you, there's plenty of worms there. They probably ran into hiding as soon as I turned on the light so I could see them. We'll try that another day. But I assure you it's a very nice, viable worm bin, which you can tell by the large amount of eggs. Another thing I've done is I had my dad drill a hole into my worm bin. Now, the worms will stay in pretty much the first 6 to 8 inches here. And when I water them, I have drilled a hole right there and put a long, thick straw through there, and it drips down into that bucket there. Well, it's not a bucket. It's really a U-Bon coffee container. But that's how much worm juice I've gotten out in the past 2 days. So as long as that's still dripping, I know that they're not too dry. Of course, I also know by filling the soil in the bin. But some people are kind of squeamish and like, I'm not touching the worm dirt, it's got poop and all. Yeah, whatever. So that's my thought on that. But there's my worm juice, and I will be diluting that a little later tonight and letting it sit overnight so that the water that I'm going to be diluting it with has been sitting out for 48 hours, so all the chemicals have, gone off and to wherever they go. But then I'll let it sit another 24 hours, or actually 12 hours, because I'll probably use this in the morning. What I usually do during the day is, because I have seen some hungry-looking birds, and to keep it nice and moist, I'll cover it with cardboard, and then I loosely put some of my plants on it to keep the lid down. And that's pretty much what I do with my worms. And soon they will be going to a new home so I can refurbish the soil in this. And pretty much use it on my fall garden. So that's what it's going to be used for. Now, last night, a lot of you watched a video. I was very tired, and I apologize. Because I told you that my eggplant didn't like heat and direct sunlight. I was looking at the beets when I said that. Beets do not like excessive heat or sunlight. The eggplant, on the other hand, is more of a subtropical plant, and it actually likes direct sunlight and at least minimum 6 hours of direct sunlight. So what I have done is I have replanted my eggplant, and it's actually started, the flowers have started to come out finally. And apparently, even though the pot said it was 18 inches, it just wasn't, it didn't allow it enough room to grow. So now that I put it in there and refreshed its soil and given it some calcium and nitrogen and all kinds of lovely fertilizer stuff, it seems a lot happier today. And the leaves aren't curling up as much. Those are actually starting to uncurl. And there's some flowers growing here, so I'm really happy about that. That's actually the bucket that I took my 2-week supply of emergency food out of. They were in Mylar bags, so they're in a nice, safe place. This is what I spent most of the night doing. I had this right here is just from 2 little milk cartons. These are the ones I still have to do. All in here. I still have to do all those and replant them. This here is my hot compost bin. I have had to empty a few containers, so it's nice and fluffy and full of life. I was having a problem with these beets. They were beautiful the other day, and then all of a sudden I noticed that they look like that, and I'm not sure why. So I checked the drainage on the box. Drainage was fine. I checked to make sure that the twine self-watering system was fine. It was fine. It was all in one piece. It was not super moist. It was as moist as it should have been. So I couldn't figure out what was going on exactly. So I took the 2 beets out. There they are. That's the bin. And I dumped the soil. Now, I had a problem with the Miracle Grow that I had bought. Because they were out of my Expert Gardener, which is what I usually use. And so I dumped it, and I found a bunch of fungus gnat eggs in the bottom of the container. Fungus gnats usually lay their eggs in the top 2 to 3 inches. So there should not have been fungus gnat eggs in the bottom of the container. Now this is the container. That they were in. Nice and deep because they're beets, and they're actually beet tops. So I'm assuming that they were just small and I did not see them when I planted them, or when I put the box together, because there they were, a whole big bunch of them. So I took the fungus gnats eggs out and destroyed them, crushed them with my handy dandy little shovel here. And now I'm just letting the beets sit there, and hopefully in the nice rich soil they'll plump back up and they'll be fine. I'm hoping. That's another question. Can you revitalize the beets? Hopefully we can. Okay. It's been a long day. And, of course I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning replanting a bunch of tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes. There's the rest of them that I have to do still. There's my onions. I'm still waiting on my beautiful onion flower to die and dry out so I can harvest the seeds. These 2 little guys, that's my plug-in for my red and light grow lights. Red and blue grow lights. These 2 little guys, I've got more that popped up. Let me see, right down there. I don't know if you can see them or not. But there's a lot of mystery plants. There you go. Right there. I'm not sure if those are pole beans or if they are cucumbers. But either way, they're plants that climb and need to be trellised. So I'm trying to figure out a way to trellis those. And I'm probably going to have to take them out of that container and put them in their own container so that I can trellis them. This is my rosemary. I did finally repot it. It's just a juice container. And it has, I've cut the top off. So that's what that is. There's 2 of the cuttings off my Irish eye tomato. There's the beautiful mystery Asian cabbage thing that we're not sure what it is, but it put out pretty flowers, and now it's seeding. So I've been collecting the seeds as I see them. I cut them off. These little guys right here, that right there, that little bitty weird looking thing at the end, those are the seeds. They look like little skinny pea pods, but those are the seeds. So I'm letting those dry out, and I'll probably be cutting them off tomorrow and either saving them or planting them. I'm not sure which. I haven't decided what I'm going to do exactly after I figure out what to do with those mystery plants. I've narrowed it down to pole beans and cucumbers. So I'm not sure which, but either way they need to be trellised, so we'll be redoing that. Here's some more potatoes. They're almost ready to be harvested. The dog decided he was hungry. I ripped one off. No biggie. That's not where the edible part is, so I'm not too concerned about it. This right here is the cherry tomato seeds that I pretty much just scooped out and rinsed and put in there to see if they would grow. Another question, another experiment. That's what gardening is a lot about, is what works for you, what doesn't work, and pretty much adjusting. My watermelons. They need to have some more soil on them, so I'll be doing that tomorrow. Some more onions and garlic. My kale back there, it's ready to have at least one of its leaves pruned off and trimmed off and eaten. That's my Big Daddy potato plant. As you can see, he's dying. That's good, because that means that his potatoes are almost ready to be harvested, and then I can use that box for something else. That is an Armenian cucumber there. That's what that is. It's growing nicely. My garlic got into a little too much sun, so I may have to cut him down. I'm not sure if those are either broccoli or collards. The boxes got mixed up, and not only did the boxes get mixed up, but the dog ate the label. These are my red beets. That was actually a top, and they started growing. That's what those are. I'm not really sure where my radishes have gone to. Ooh, it's a mystery. I'll be looking for those later. Alright, well that's all that's going off here. There's my sage. I added some more soil and gave it some calcium. Pretty much a 1/4 cup of crushed dried eggshells and crushed oyster shells, and that's what I've been putting on my plants, mixed in the beautiful warm juice that gets watered down. So all of that adds nutrients to my plants, and as you can tell, it's working quite wonderfully with all these little cherry tomatoes. This is another thing I want to discuss. I had cut back my Irish Eyes tomato because our frost date is in 6 to 8 weeks, so I need those fruit to start ripening up. So what you do to force them to ripen up is you cut the leaves from the last fruit. this is my last fruit, so I trimmed all the leaves down. And in a minute when I go inside, I'll show you all the beautiful cuttings I got. There. And I trimmed the top of the main branch off. That would be right there. I trimmed the top off of that so that all the energy is directed towards the fruit to make them ripen up. Hopefully before the first frost. Now I do have my red and blue grow light on the tomatoes that were closest to being ripe. So hopefully that will work and those will ripen up, and then I can cut it down and overwinter it. There's another little guy growing down there. He popped up in like over the weekend. So this are my potatoes that I felt down there yesterday, and they've got a few that had started to grow, but for some reason they're not reaching maturity. I've amended the soil, I've added soil. I'm not really sure what's going on with those potatoes. But the potatoes there, the granddaddy potatoes, where all the leaves are turning brown and dying, that's what they're supposed to do when they're ready to be harvested. And I felt down there, and he's got some really nice sized ones. So in the next day or two, I will be harvesting those, and I'll make a video about that. There's some more mysteries. I'm not sure, again, if that's collard or broccoli. But either way, it's in too short of a container. So I'll be redoing that either tonight or tomorrow and putting them in a deeper container. These are some more of that mystery, supposedly oriental cabbage or broccoli. Its flowers are starting to go, and it's got little seed pods at the end. So that's what happens. This is some sage that needs to be planted probably tonight by the looks of it. A little baby tomato plant. That's just an experiment. That was the other onion flower that the little bud fell off and the bud died. So these, excuse me, one of those lemongrass. No, guess not. Just onions. And these are some more cuttings off of where I pruned down and cut back my Irish Ice tomato. Now that's this other sage. That's doing great. But that needs to be planted as well, that sage. So I'll probably be doing that tonight. It's going to be another late night. That's just my daughter's angel scent, which works great when she actually keeps it on. These are actually the branches that I pruned off of the Irish Ice. And as you can see, they've already got great roots. There's more, quite a few actually. These are all the little suckers that I trimmed off of my Irish Ice, and they're a little cup of water. There's some of the bigger suckers and branches I took off. There's that mystery edible oriental broccoli. There's some more cherry tomatoes back there that I need to replant. That little guy right there, I believe that was from my greens. I got greens and I put him the little stem in water and it grew some nice roots, so I put him in there and it looks like he's ready for a bigger plot. More tomatoes down there that have to be separated. I don't know if you can see them very well. There they are. They need to be separated and put in a pot. So I got quite a bit to do to get ready. I have started my fall seedlings, or my seeds, to germinate them. So hopefully they'll be germinated and ready to go in a container soon. Okay, we are now in the spare room, and these are the rest of my potatoes. They are going quite nicely. That weird noise you hear in the background is Mr. Tiny. He's a Russian dwarf hamster. And of course, they're nocturnal, so he decides he wants to run somewhere. This is one of the cherry tomatoes that I planted yesterday, and he looks like he's doing quite nicely. This is my basil. It's growing quite nicely. These, I believe, are my onions. Yes. And they're doing quite nicely. There's some more tomatoes. I'm not sure why they decided to grow towards the side of the container, but they did. That's okay. These are some more onions. And, they apparently are not getting enough sunlight. These beets are doing quite nicely. These are red beets, the tops. These are some of the first ones that I planted. So the fact that they're still doing so nicely is quite wonderful. I am going to add some more soil to that box probably tomorrow, just to give them a little more to play with there. There's some more onions. I really like onions. These are more onions. And I actually brought this box in from outside because he was getting forgotten. He was on the bottom level of a table I have, and the plants above him were being watered, and it was going into there, but I think I have the drainage might be too big on the bottom, so I may have to tape that up a little, and because I just watered him in. Oh, another thing. This right here is not potting soil that you're seeing. This is actually, all that was at the store was garden topsoil, and, so I tried it, and, I assure you I won't be doing that again, because it dries out. It doesn't keep the moisture at all. I actually just removed the layer of hay mulch I had on there, and that should have kept it nice and moist. And it's not really wet. I mean, it's not really that dry, as you can tell. It's just the topsoil, for some reason, doesn't hold moisture very well. Not in a container, at least. It does great in a garden, but not for container gardening. So we know better now, and we've answered that question. We won't be doing that again. So, because the plants that are in here get the same amount of water. They get the same amount of water as every other plant. And it's just the soil is not retaining water. Because it's not meant to be used in a container. It's meant to be used as a topsoil in a garden or a raised bed. And this is the last bit. This is some more cuttings I took from my Irish-ized tomato when I pruned it back. Cut it back, not prune. Pruned is only up to 20%. Cutting back is up to 60%. This right here is was a beautiful green and purple lettuce, which I ate. And so the green there, that's all fresh, that's new, and I just cut these 2 days ago. This right here, see, it's starting to basket root. It's already got a little green leaf growing on. That was actually another collard stem. And this is got some fresh growth. That is actually from the lavender plant. So I believe that is all for my garden and my new things I have to do. Here's some more tomato plants. I have to do all those. You can't see because my battery is dying, and so my flash isn't working. So I already did one of the milk cartons that was here. That's one of the new bottles outside with cherry tomatoes. These are all cherry tomatoes that I have to take out and thin out, and all I did was squeeze the cherry tomato into the soil and cover it up, and so now I have to thin them all out and replant them. So that's what I'll be doing over the next few days, is hopefully getting all the little cherry tomatoes separated and put into their new little containers. Alright, y'all all have a good night, and I'll see you in the next one.